to the extent that I'm doing anything right in my life, I would credit it to my parents and my teachers. My father passed away when I was 15, and he was a professor of English in a little town out of Bangalore. When he passed away, in the town that we lived, he had lots of respect for the work he was doing and as a very honorable um, intellectual. And he also used to devote his time to provide free tuitions for people who didn't speak English very well because he was a professor of English. Um, when he passed away all of a sudden in an accident, I was 15, and lots of people from the town came forward to contribute money to fund that his colleagues, my father's colleagues in the college had, come to create, so that we, as his children, could study, because the people in the town knew that there wasn't any backup financially for us, and so it's all those anonymous contributions that have helped us get our education. And obviously, those who gave money then had no way of getting anything back from us. And there is that human kindness that, has made us in some ways, myself and my siblings, what we are. So at some point, um, as I was growing up, I felt that I need to do something that was more than a bank balance, and therefore chose to find ways of contributing back to society with all the skills that I had. So when I finished my engineering degree, um, I applied to go to the US to get get an MBA in finance. And at that time, given that we had a very modest, financial position, I told my mother I will stay back and for 10 years and earn some money and only then come back to India. This was in the late 80s. And so my mother said, fine, because we did want to break out of the modest means that we had before that. And as I started my MBA program in Houston, um, at some point during the course, I had opportunity to meet with a number of people who had MBAs, who were doing successfully in their own professions. But then, you used to ask those people, what is it that you're looking for? And they would say, I want to be CEO, I want to be head of marketing, or whatever. And when I reflect on those people who are otherwise very successful financially and professionally, I felt, look, if I'm 55 and I said, wow, I retired as director of marketing for this company, would I be satisfied with myself? And the answer was a resounding no. And so I said, look, then there must be something else that drives me. And therefore, midway, as I was doing my MBA, I decided I'd come back to India soon after graduating. And so I was employed as a student with a financial firm in Houston who wanted to keep me much after I graduated. And but I said, look, I will be with this firm as long as I'm in the US, but I need to get back to India. So I was with them for 6 months after I graduated and came back. Not knowing really what I would do, but with the deep, interest in finding something that I might be able to add value to India. And I pondered after I came back, is building a company public service? Is it adding value to India? Is working for an NGO adding value to India? Is creating jobs in a bank, by being in a bank, adding value to India? And in some ways, the answer to all of it is yes. You are adding value to India in any productive work that you do. But I then, wondered about where I might be most useful. And I felt that in spaces like banking and corporate life, there are a number of bright people who automatically go there for a number of reasons, professional and financial. And therefore, if I did want to serve India, perhaps my biggest value would come from being in the social and public space, which was the path I chose to stay on after I figured it out. The idea was that our members of parliament did not have research or analytical support for the important legislative business that they would be working on. And we felt that as professionals, we could bring in value to analyze pending legislation, explain it in a way that is easily accessible for members of parliament and the general public. Therefore, making the legislative process better informed, more transparent, and participatory. Our work really is focused on helping members of parliament understand the provisions of any piece of legislation, to analyze the issues that one might need to consider before passing the legislation, to look at comparative issues in other countries, to look at the legal background of the Indian High Courts and Supreme Court rulings and what they mean for this kind of legislation or this particular issue. We do not make recommendations any which way, implicitly or explicitly, which is the reason why we are well regarded by members of parliament across political parties in India. As you might know, we have something like 40 political parties represented in parliament, many of whom reach out to us on a fairly regular basis. The reason they rely on us is they believe that we're non-partisan, we're not trying to press an agenda of any sort, and therefore they feel comfortable to reach out to us and ask for analysis and information that might be useful for them to make up their own minds. One lesson I have certainly learned is initiative, because there are so many things that we can sit around and watch and complain about, but the more initiative you're willing to take, the more of a chance that you get to lead. So initiative and leadership are very tightly linked. So that's one lesson. Second, for those who are in the public space or the social space, I would say create some kind of financial backup for yourself, create some kind of cushion, financial cushion for yourself, so that you're not dependent for income and sustaining your own family and yourself on the initiative that you're working on. Because you haven't gotten into this to be able to live off of it. You've come into this to serve as long as you think you might be useful. And the moment you think you should do other things or others should lead what you've been trying to do, you should not stay back in this just for the money, just for the cushion that for the cushion that you did not create. So that's the second thing I feel for people in the public and social space, extremely important. The third, as far as education is concerned, there are lots of youngsters who are very idealistic, who want to do public service. I would say pick up skills that are interchangeable, because at 21 you might feel might want to be in public service. At 28 or 35, if you feel, oh my God, maybe I should have had other skills that would help me do other things in life. If you just don't have the skills that you require to make that switch, you'll be out of place. So focus on skills that you can build as part of your education that are transferable to other sectors. Think of things as you do your work, the skills that you build for yourself that are transferable to other sectors if and when you change your mind. For some strange reason, there wasn't anyone who was focusing on our legislators and what they do with legislation. And so when I saw this not as a problem, but really as an opportunity for someone like myself, who was a professional, who could add major value to this process. So I picked it up, and fortunately, um, many things have come together, and we've been able to pull off for the first time in the history of India an initiative of this sort, which works very closely with members of parliament. Today, we've become the most trusted source of information for members of parliament across party lines. So this is just an example of, spotting something, taking the initiative to do something, rather than endlessly complain about our politicians. I'm just giving you this as one example. The other I might say is I really am glad that I took an MBA course when I was 22 and not a softer area at that age, because to me the MBA actually gave me a huge advantage. I could have perhaps instead maybe taken a course in social work, and it is not about what I perceive about a course in social work as opposed to an MBA. It's about what the world perceives as to the skills that you bring when you have an MBA degree as opposed to a social work degree. And therefore, to me, not only did I start off life with an investment banking, experience in India and abroad, which gave me a huge heads up when I, spoke to people in the non-profit sector, but also even in the for-profit sector, huge networks of friends who are very senior bankers and investment bankers in the country today, who give me enormous support for the work I do, both financially and otherwise. So it's been extremely beneficial for me to have a degree that gave me the credibility and the leeway to reach out to a wide range of people and build on the skills that I picked up in the business school. If I were to look at the future and ask myself what should I be thinking about, I'd only have one thing that I would want to think about, and that is our children. It is about what we are teaching our children. It is what opportunities we are creating for our children. It is about what resources we're leaving behind for our children. It is about what values we're inculcating in our children. It's about what real education we are giving to our children. That's what I really think about.